All right, let's get started. Any questions so far? Anything about last class or anything? So some quick information. If you go to Blackboard, I uploaded your presentation schedule. So let's see. So you should have the group number, you should have the currency you're covering, and you should have the date when you present it, okay? So let me know if you find any typos or any problem with that. So there is, I actually decided whoever replied me first is group one, that's what I do always. Whoever replied me the last one is group 7, that's what I do always. And accordingly, I sorted, I assigned you the date. You have 2 days for presentation. April 25, May the 2nd. Make sense? So the only thing you need to check, you have your right group member and you have the currency you asked for. That's it. Make sense? Second important information. We have midterm next week, right? I uploaded the guidelines which you can follow if you want to prepare for the midterm one. Okay. I have not uploaded any formula sheet because there is only one formula needed for the midterm. All other calculations are very easy. You will not need any formula. The only formula you need from chapter 1, we did evidence evaluation for 1 period. If you can remember, maybe the first class or second class, I think the second class. Go to the chapter 1, you'll get the formula, evidence evaluation. You will get the formula on the test, but I just did not upload here. You'll see the same formula on the back of your test. But if you want to start studying, you can follow these guidelines. All of our midterm 1 is basically what we covered until last class. What we're going to cover today will push back to final. Make sense? So chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, which we covered until last class. And you have a quiz due today, right? Chapter 4. So any questions about midterm? Next class is all about exam policies. And if you have any questions for any topics, anything. Okay, so next class is all about midterm review. Next Tuesday, you're gonna have a midterm right here in this class. Make sense? Okay. Now let's talk about a very recent news, which is basically published today. Can you read it, or you want me to zoom a little bit? Based on the news, what do you think? Impact on balance of trade, current versus financial account, and also exchange rate. Let's discuss this news. This is from today. So it's a deal by this airlines corporation with these 2 manufacturers, right? Do you know the currency for India? Rupees, right? So they call it, I think, INR, Indian rupees. Do you know where Airbus is based on their headquarters? Germany, their currency? Absolutely Germany, right? Your currency? Euro. And do we know where it is going based on? Yes. What is the currency here? Okay. So is there anyone covering these three currencies? Anyone covering? There should be one cover. No one covering euro? You're covering euro, right? There should be, I know, there should be one covering euro. So now what do you think? Based on this trade, impact on balance of trade of these three countries, impact on current and financial account, impact on exchange rate. This is a really, really good practice. Next week, midterm, you will see similar examples asking you what is the impact. Are you waiting on me to answer? I'm waiting on you to answer. So three countries, US, Germany, and let's say India. Yes, Fanta.
Well, I don't think we'll just ask Christian. So what does that mean? Like India is buying
Yeah, absolutely.
planes from Airbus
And Boeing.
and then
Yes. India is buying around 400 something, 470 jets. So they're buying around 470 jets from Boeing, based in US, and Airbus, based in Germany. What do you think on balance of trade with two different countries? What's the impact?
India's balance of trade will increase.
Increase?
So yeah,
Why?
because they will be able to fulfill more demand on their part.
Okay. Okay. We got one opinion. What else? What do you think? Why? Absolutely. Balance of trade was export minus import. So US and Germany is exporting. India is importing, right? So balance of trade for US and Germany gonna go up because of more export. India go down because of more import. So the point you're talking about that makes sense, that in terms of economic activity produced by India, because now they will be more able to serve more clients, maybe internally, the domestic route, or maybe internationally, different passengers, right? What about current account, financial account? Goes up, goes down. What are kind of account? What is it? No idea. What is next week? What should she know about this? All from family. Oh, sorry, not quiz meet. What are the components of current account? Can you remember? One of the major components of current account is balance of trade, right? If balance of trade is positive, nothing else is affected, current account should be increase for Germany and USA and decrease for India, right? But when you talk about partial account, is there any capital flows there? Are India, US, or Germany making any fund transfer, capital flows? Are they doing that? Yes or no? Capital flows. India, Germany, and USA, are they making any capital flows, investments? No, right? Do you think there should be any impact on financial account? No effect, right? Because they're only doing export and import. Export and import do not count what? Direct foreign investments, right? They don't consider direct foreign investments, so there should not be any changes on financial account, right? But current account is influenced due to balance of trade. Because this is the major component. Balance of trade is the major component of current account. What about exchange rate? What should be the pressure? Impact on the exchange rate. The easy way to think about demand and supply.
That's the euro appreciation.
Why?
That's the Indian
Absolutely. So due to this trade, if we look at demand and supply, let's think about this is demand from India for euro and dollar, right? Demand from India, euro and dollar. What's gonna happen? They're gonna demand more, right? Demand more. So appreciate of the currency, right? Make sense? Okay, so this is a good practice. So when you are preparing for midterm 1 next week, think about this kind of events, maybe from book, maybe from newspaper, maybe from around. So you're gonna have similar problems on midterm 1. Make sense? Yeah. Chapter 5. In chapter 5, we're going to talk about currency derivatives. So in couple of class before, we actually talked about foreign exchange market. And in the foreign exchange market, we talk about spot market and derivative market, right? So we briefly go over the definition or some very basic examples of derivative market. Now we're going to talk about more in details of currency derivatives. So we know that when you talk about derivative market, there are basically only two types, right? Contracts and options. Contract has two different sub-classification, forward and future. Today we'll talk about only forward contracts. So contracts is an obligation. Now, before we talk about forward contracts, we need to understand why MNCs are motivated to engage in the derivative market. Why they go to the derivative market? What is the motivation? What is the purpose? There are two reasons why MNC go to the derivative market. First reason is speculation, second reason is hedging. So if you can remember in the last class, we did some problems that big fund institutions, they have expectations, right? Based on the expectation, they borrow from one country and invest in the other country, right? So they always borrow from the country where the home currency will depreciate in the future, and they invest in the country where the home currency will appreciate in the future, right? We did some problems in the last class. So this is their expectations. When any MNC, any financial institutions have expectations, and based on that, they want to speculate, they want to make some money, they go to the derivative market. They make some long short strategies based on the expectations, generate some profit. This is one of the main reasons why MNCs go to the derivative market. Second reason, hedging. When we talk about hedging, we actually talk about minimizing the risk. Minimizing our risk. Most of the MNCs, when they operate globally, they have exposure to multiple currencies, right? So let's say the example we use today, Boeing going to deliver jets to India, right? So now, due to that, today they make the contract, they will deliver some jets in 6 months. In 6 months, what kind of exposure Boeing Corporation has? They make the contract today, in 6 months, they will deliver, let's say, 100 jets to India. And what kind of exposure Boeing Corporation gonna have in 6 months? No idea. End of 6 months, what is the exposure? What Boeing Corporation will get from India? Currencies, right? So they may locked up some rate today for jet price, which they will receive here. Depending on the currency movement of INR, they have exposure here, right? So do you think it is a risk or there is no risk for Boeing Corporation? Is there any risk or no risk? There's a risk, right? So to minimize that risk, they can go for a forward or future contract or maybe options. In short, they can go to the derivative market to minimize that risk in 6 months. This is called hedging. In plain language, when any MNCs have exposure due to their natural operation, and to minimize that exposure, they went to the derivative market. They are being hedging. Because for Boeing selling jets internationally in different countries is the regular operation, right? Due to that, they have exposure to numerous currencies. To minimize that exposure, the risk of that exposure, if Boeing corporations do anything in the derivative market, they are hedging. On the other hand, lot of financial institutions, they just trade based on the expectation. They don't have any natural exposure due to their operations. Their only job is to trade based on expectations, which one gonna go up, which one gonna go down. If you have no exposure due to your natural course of operations, but you're still trading based on expectation, you are actually speculating. These are the two important reasons any financial institutions, any MNCs go to the derivative market. What are the options or opportunities they have in the derivative market? They can go for contracts, they can go for options. When they go for contracts, they have two different options. One is forward contract, one is future contract. So when you talk about forward contract, if the contract is made today, there are two parties involved. One party is known as long, and this party will pay the price in future and get delivery of the instrument. Another party is short. Receive the price and deliver instrument. Now let's make the example very clear. Let's talk about in terms of crude oil. US buy crude oil from Saudi Arabia, right? In long amount, large amount, right? So if US decides 6 months from now, they will pay the dollar and get crude oil, US in the long side. The long side, pay the price, get the delivery of the instrument, could be crude oil, could be stock, could be bond, could be price. Short side, receive the price, Saudi Arabia. They will receive. Sorry about that, I really don't know what happens in the documents. Saudi Arabia, in 6 months, they will receive the dollar value, right? They will deliver the crude oil to US, get the short side. Easy way to understand. Long will pay the price and will receive the desired instrument. Short will receive the price and deliver the instrument. Two parties, two sides, long and short. Okay, don't think the long guy is a tall, short guy is a small. No. Two parties, buyer and seller. Here they make the contract. They make the contract today, but agreed on a forward price. Agreed on a forward price. At expiration, long will pay the forward price, receive the delivery. Short will receive the forward price and deliver the instrument. This is an obligation. This is not just a right, it's an obligation for both parties. They have to execute. However, 6 months from now, when we reach that 6 months day, on the market, there could be a different rate at which the instrument is trading. The rate could be favorable for the long side, the rate could be favorable for the short side, that doesn't matter. At 6 months, the rate prevailing in the market is called future spot rate. This has nothing to do with this contract, because at 6 months, if new parties come to the market and want to trade at the spot, they will use that rate. But the two parties who made the contract before, they will use the forward price executions. Makes sense so far? Now, how can we decide forward price? How can we calculate the forward price? Any idea? How can you calculate the forward price? So let's talk about from the perspective of stock, how can you calculate the forward price? Then we will convert it in the currency system. Like how can you calculate the forward price? Okay. So let's say there are two parties, David and Jacqueline. They made a contract. What contract they made? Tell me one stock and current price. Does Google one stock and tell me the current price of it?
$98.92.
Okay, let's say $100. Okay, make it easy. So they make a contract on Amazon. Right now, it's trading at $100, okay? So David is the long side, Jacqueline on the short side. Then what is the execution? They make the contract for one Amazon in 6 months. Here, David will pay the forward price they will decide, which we'll talk about soon. The forward price they decide and receive 1 unit. What is the role of Jacqueline? Deliver 1 unit of Amazon and receive the forward price. But this is what? Spot price. Right? So now, what is the role of Jacqueline today? It can invest in Amazon, right? It can invest in Amazon, buy 1 unit of Amazon today at $100 and keep it for 6 months. So that at 6 months end, Jacqueline can deliver the Amazon stock, right? So if Jacqueline invests in $1 unit of Amazon today, what is the cost of investment? $100, right? That is the cost of investment today. And we know that for economy, the minimum rate of return anyone should earn for investment is a risk-free rate, right? In economy, if we make any investment, the minimum rate of return we should earn is what? Risk-free rate. And we assume that Amazon is a risk-free investment. Just assume that Amazon is a risk-free investment. So if we make the investments, our future value should be equal to investment today. Investment today, which is A0 times e to the power risk-free rate times the holding period. Makes sense? Because in finance, we believe in continuous compounding, right? So any investment should run what? Risk-free rate. So investment to the $100, let's just assume risk-free rate is 5% hypothetically. And this is 6 months, should be half. Makes sense so far? And what should be the future value? If you made $100 worth of investments for 6 months, where the risk-free rate is 5%, you tell me what should be the future value? Use your calculator. So it's basically S0 is $100 investments times e to the power, okay, exponential, R times T. R is 5%, T is 0.5, 6 months. Make sense? So let me write here, S is 100, R is 0.05, T is 0.5. How much you got? Even I don't know what will be the answer. It should be e to the power 0.025 times 100. How much you got? 102.5? 102.5. Okay. It's something more than that issue. So the future value we got 102.5, right? So basically, going back to the original transactions, if you make any risk investments, this should be the output investment, right? So the short side, what the short side is doing, making the investment today so that the short side can deliver the commodity, product, stock, bond here. So this is the value of the investment for 6 months, and that should be the forward price.
Is it compounding the semi-annually or not?
This is continuous compounding. It should be more than 102.5 because 2.5% of $100 is $2.50, right? We are doing continuous compounding. Should be more than that. Let me see. So we got 0.025, right? This should be the right answer, 5.3 then. Make sense? So going back. So this is the worth of investments in 6 months, right? So this should be the future forward price. So today they will agree 6 months later, we will exchange 1 unit of Amazon at 102.53 cents. And this is how forward rate is determined. Okay. Now there is a concern. The concern is you fixed period for Amazon investment, right? Which is not true. Investing in Amazon is not risk-free. So ideally, you have to decide the appropriate rate of return on investments, and that will determine the forward price. So in short, if we know the appropriate discount rate for the investments, if the short side buy the product commodity instrument here, you hold it for 6 months, the final value, the future value should be the forward price for that contract. Making sense? So if we believe 10% is the appropriate rate, just replace that. That's it. 15% is the appropriate rate, replace that. Makes sense how forward price determined in regular instruments? Now moving to the currency sector. So let's say you have $1 Australian. Right now, hypothetically trading at 62 cents of US. Okay, you have $1 Australian. Right now, hypothetically trading at 62 cents of US dollar. You want to convert this currency US dollar in 6 months. You need this currency to be in US in 6 months. What you can do? You can do 2 things. You can convert this $1 Australian to 62 cents, then invest 62 cents in US at the appropriate 6 months rate, or What else you can do? You can invest $1 in Australia at the appropriate rate, end of 6 months, convert to the US dollar and return it to the US dollar. Making sense? So you have two options, and both options should give you the same payoff. Otherwise, there is arbitrage. So that means if we invest So if you look carefully, I have $1, which I can convert spot trade today, invest in US appropriate rate for 6 months, or what I can do, $1, invest in Australia appropriate rate for 6 months, convert in the future. They should be equal. This is RF because this is foreign rate. This is only R because this is US rate. I have 1 unit of Australian currency, foreign currency. So these two strategies should give you what? Same payoff, same value? Has to be equal, right? Otherwise, we can do what? If there's an arbitrage, we can do long and short strategy so that make it equal. And if you just rearrange the equation, the forward rate in the currency market is a function of spot rate today and still. Just rearrange. Spot rate today to the power of E, foreign rate, and US rate. Times T. Now, if I give it information that the appropriate rate in Australia is right now 7% and US dollar is 5%, can you tell me what is the forward rate or forward price for this transaction? What is the forward price for Australian dollar and US dollar? If the appropriate rates are 7% in Australia and 5% in US. Just plug in the information. How much? 0.6262. So basically 0.62 e to the power 0.07 minus 0.05. Okay. Let's get the information. I believe Lina is doing right. If not, you know, this should be the forward rate. So ideally, forward rate in the currency market between two currencies are based on interest rate differentials. Forward rate between two currencies are basically based on the interest rate differentials of the two currencies you are working on. Make sense? So today, if we want to make a contract between Australian dollar and US dollar, this should be the forward price for the currency. Any confusions, any thought? How forward price are determined in the exchange market or currency market? Good so far? Okay. So we already talked about this one, right? And we also know what is bid and ask spread. Similar to the spot market, fund institutions, which means bank, they provide bid and ask quote for different currencies, right? Similar to the spot market, they also provide bid and ask quote for the forward market. That's it, same thing. Banks provide bid and ask quote for the spot market. Similarly, they provide bid and ask quote for the forward market. And we know that there should be a spread, right? So the bank can make some money. Okay. So far we know how to calculate forward rate, right? Some example, this is the forward rate between Australian dollar and US dollar. This is the spot rate. And sometimes we want to calculate the premium. So if you use the formula, you will find that for different currencies, what is the premium for forward market? Sometimes if some currencies are not widely available, liquidity issues, lot of issues, volatility, lot of issues, premium will be high. If some currencies are really highly traded, premium will be pretty low. Make sense? Sometimes liquidity, inventory, that affects the premium. We already talked about that, how forward price are determined. This is some basic example. So if this is the spot rate between US dollar and pound today, 30-day forward, 90-day forward, 180-day forward, what is the premium? Basic calculations. For 30-day forward, the premium is 0.71%. 90-day forward, the premium is 0.95%. 1.07%. Some basic calculations. Okay, some very specific characteristics of forward market. So we know that the forward price of the forward trade in the market is affected by interest rate differential between the two countries we're talking about. And this interest rate is not constant forever. They keep changing. And depending on the directions they are moving on, they are changing, forward trade will be moving up and down based on the interest rate. Sometimes we can use a forward contract to offset an existing contract. How? Let's say today, Boeing Corporation recruited some outsourcers for their corporation from India. And they say that 6 months from now, the Boeing corporations is going to pay their fees and services for the outsourcing services. What is the total fees and services? let's say 500,000 in INR. What does it mean? 6 months from now, Boeing Corporation has an exposure of 500,000 INR because they have to pay some sort of salaries and fees for some sort of outsourcing services, right? 1 month from now, Boeing Corporation did not like the service contract. They canceled the contract. The company canceled the contract and they decided they would not pay anything to that corporations. Now, what is the problem here? What is the problem? Because Boeing corporations already have a forward contract that they will pay some dollar and receive 500,000 INR so that they can pay to the outsourcing company, right? But they actually canceled the outsourcing contract. So right now they have zero exposure in their regular course of business, but due to the forward contract, they have $500,000 exposure, right? What they should do? They should keep the contract open, pay the dollar, receive INR, keep it in their pockets. Because forward contract is an obligation, right? They have to execute. No more contracts with the outsourcing company. We are not going to pay anything to the outsourcing company. But we have a contract open with a bank for 500,000 INR. What you can do? No idea. Sell the contract. So we cannot sell the contract most of the time. Reason is forward contracts are not traded in exchanges, right? Those are not standard contracts. Those are not like, let's say, if you buy any stock and couple of days later, you are not feeling good for the stock for the future, right? You can easily go to the secondary market and sell the stock, right? So if this was a future contract, let's say Boeing corporations have a future contract trading in the exchange that 6 months from now, we'll pay you some dollar and I'm going to receive 500,000 INR, right? If this was a future contract, Boeing Corporation can easily go to the exchange and they can easily find a buyer who wants to buy a similar contract. I think that's a good thing, or not, right? But this is not a future contract. It doesn't trade with the exchange. What you can do? Boeing corporations can find the same bank or another financial institutions for 5 months, make another forward contract. So that now Boeing corporations will pay 500 INR and this is their offer. Cancel out. There may be some cost, maybe some risk, but now I have zero exposure to INR. Make sense? Initially, they decided by INR, right? 6 months maturity. Now they decided still INR, similar amount, 5 months maturity. Both have expiration at the same time. Just offsetting the exposure of 500,000 INR with 2 different dates. Maybe they are making some sort of loss, or they can go to the bank, pay some fees, and just offset the contract with the same bank. So that's why sometimes forward contracts are used to offset existing forward contracts. Because they are not traded on the exchange, you cannot go to the market and find a buyer and just sell it to the buyer. You cannot do that. So that's why sometimes forward contracts are used to offset an existing forward contract. Make sense? Questions, concern? All good? Using a forward contracts for swap transaction. So what is a swap transaction? So it's basically a series of cash flows that are going to be exchanged in the future. Series of cash flows that are going to be exchanged in the future. If we tweak this actual example, the real example to a little bit, if we tweak a little bit, that Boeing corporations established a subsidiary in India so that they can deliver all of their jets to India. So they decided they established a subsidiary in India so that they can deliver jets in India. Can you guys tell me what could be some expected transaction for this hypothetical example? An expected flow of funds for this hypothetical example. Today they will establish a subsidiary in India so that in 6 months they can satisfy all of the demands for jets of India. What do you think? What they will do today? If they want to establish a subsidiary in India, what they need to do in terms of money? What they need to do? In terms of money, what they need to do at least today? If you want to establish acquire a subsidiary in foreign country, think about fund flows. Spend money there. So today they have a demand for INR, right? So if they send money here today because then money, which is basically they using dollar converted to INR today. Six months deliver all of the jets. In terms of money, what do you think the transaction of 6 months? We see back because now Air India is paying all of the sales price in INR and Boeing is converting to INR and back to US. Make sense? So if any forward contract is used to offset the spot contract made in an earlier period, those are basically known as swap contracts. Because they're exchanging cash flows, they're exchanging spot contracts. So they're actually doing the reverse in 2 different time periods, right? So they're sending money today to establish a subsidiary, which will generate revenue, money, and profit going forward, and they're keeping back today to US, right? So these are called using a forward contracts for swap transactions. So these are basically different strategies you can generate, you can do to minimize the risk exposure of your natural course of business. Make sense? Sometimes forward contracts are non-deliverable. So what does it mean by non-deliverable? Because we know that if we want to make any forward contract at expiration, long will pay the price, receive the delivery, right? And short will receive the price and deliver the instruments, currencies, or commodities, right? Sometimes, most of the MNCs for trading or speculation reasons, what they do, they make a contract today, agreed upon on a forward price, and on the expiration, they don't accept the delivery, rather they net out with the spot rate. Think about a stock. Our initial example, we make a forward contract with one stock of Amazon for 6 months, forward price 102.53, right? In real contract, what's going to happen? Irrespective of the spot price, long will pay this much, receive 1 unit at Amazon, right? Short will receive this much and deliver 1 unit at Amazon. But if we go for the non-deliverable contract, what does it mean? Amazon trading at 101. This is the loss for the long side, right? Because the long side can go to the market, pay 101 and this is 1 unit of Amazon. Makes sense? Loss of how much? $1.52 of loss. Now long decided, I don't need the delivery, I'm paying you $1.50. You keep the product. Make sense? You can sell in the market, right? You can just go and sell in the market at 101 and I'm paying for a difference. Make sense? So non-deliverable contracts, they don't really exchange the commodity, they don't really pay for the total price, rather they just net out. Because if long pay for this loss, $1.53, the short can easily go to the market, sell at 101, and the short can easily get the total forward price, right? But the long is actually getting out, not taking the delivery. So this is called non-deliverable forward contracts. Make sense? Question so far. Offsetting, swap, non-deliverable, how to set or calculate the forward price, and everything. Good. So this is so far for today's class. On Thursday, we're going to do the review, and Tuesday, we're going to have midterm model.